The Mavericks are having a tough campaign with Luka Doncic bearing the brunt of the workload, and while he's done a great job, the squad clearly needs more options. However, it came as a surprise when it was revealed that they were thinking about parting ways with Christian Wood, one of their key players, instead of adding someone to the squad. Let's explore that and see what Luka had to say about emulating LeBron. Starting with the Mavs exploring Wood's departure. Christian Wood was signed on by the Mavericks in the offseason as a potential second star behind Luka Doncic, but only after a few months on, chances are that the Mavs might let him go. It's a huge surprise for sure because Wood hasn't exactly played badly. He's been good this season, but the Mavericks are somehow exploring other options in the market, and their plans of bringing in a guard could potentially be switched by their need for a center should they part ways with Wood. A potential trade remains on the cards, mostly because of the sizable chasm between the demands of the two parties for a contract extension. We'll take a look at that later in the video, but the fact is, the Mavericks clearly don't believe that Wood has the ability to be a second superstar in this team. That's a little unfair too, because arguably speaking, Wood has been the Mavericks' best non-Luka player this season, and it's clear as day. He's not filled in the void left behind by Jalen Brunson to a T, clearly because they play different roles, but he's tried his best to be the second superstar in a team desperately in need of one. Despite that, the belief is that he hasn't done as well as the Mavericks had initially hoped when they brought him in, and for that reason alone, they aren't willing to part with a lot of money to keep him in Dallas. After that, the contract trouble. The main issue between the Mavericks and Christian Wood is their valuation of the player. Wood and his agency clearly believe that he is in his prime and has the potential to explode in the next few years, and that's certainly true too. Wood is only 27. He played at a really high level during his time in Houston and was very impressive in almost every outing, averaging nearly 20 points in his 2 years with the Rockets. Now though, he's already averaging above 18 in the 38 games he's played for the Mavericks. Not to mention, his rebounds are also above 8 while scoring at nearly 40% from the three-point range. For a player entering his prime, it's not a surprise that Wood's demands are a little too high, and we'll have to side with the player here. The Mavericks should be giving in to his demands because you're not going to get a better center in the market than Wood. The upside to offering him a big contract is clearly too big to ignore, and the Mavericks would do well to remember that. They don't want the repetition of what happened with Brunson only last year, and it would be a huge blow if they mess up the chances of retaining Wood ahead of free agency this season. Let's be honest, there are way too many franchises that would pay Wood exactly what he's after, and then a year later we'll all be talking about how the Mavericks fumbled another talent. More importantly, Dallas needs to give him a bigger role and contract. At the moment though, there's a lot of frustration in Dallas for Wood, not only in terms of his contract but also in terms of his playing time. He's made around a dozen starts only, and that has been the biggest problem for the Mavericks and for Wood too. He has expressed his frustration with his role in Dallas. In late November, Wood pointed out how he would love to play more, and he explained how he'd voiced that concern several times, but also is resigned to just playing his role. That clearly doesn't sound like a happy chap. Maybe the Mavericks are being clever by keeping him away from the limelight and getting away by not offering him a lot of money, but it definitely won't work. He's already got a lot of suitors, and many teams are already eyeing up a potential trade for Wood, and that's something they can't afford. They shouldn't be lowballing someone as good as Wood, and they should play him because this might be their best chance of challenging for the championship too, with Luka in such fine form. It would make sense to get him more help and get the best out of Wood too, who has been really shooting superbly. After all, the talk about Wood being selfish on offense and a lazy defender is just a weak analysis, and not true at all. He deserves a proper run in the team and also a bigger contract. Adding to that, potential landing spots for Wood. If the Mavericks screw up their chances of keeping hold of Wood, then there are 3 possible landing spots where Wood could end up. A center, as good as Wood, would be heavily in demand, and it wouldn't surprise us if he got traded by a team immediately. We'll take a look at all 3 possible options for him. First up, the Los Angeles Lakers. The Lakers have been in dire need of a big man, especially since Anthony Davis got injured. But even when AD isn't injured, it's obvious that he isn't the man to play center for the Lakers. He's pointed out himself too that he'd prefer playing in his natural position as a forward, but the Lakers under Darvin Ham wanted him to fill in the center position, and so it would make a lot of sense if they can snatch Wood from the Mavericks. He would add another dimension to their attack, and his defensive limitations might not be a huge problem in Ham's system because it's already really decent defensively. His shooting from the range is exceptional, and that would be another boost for the Lakers because they've struggled to make consistent three-pointers. Basically, it would be like adding another another player in the same ilk as Anthony Davis. Imagine how big of a boost that'd be. Up next, New York Knicks. The Knicks were very disappointed to miss out on Donovan Mitchell in the offseason. Since then, they've done well to stay afloat in the Eastern Conference, and it would make a lot of sense to move for someone who can improve their attack by taking it to the next level. Christian Wood seems to be one of the two options they're looking at. The other option is probably Zach LaVine, as rumored, but Wood will definitely be a better fit for the Knicks. They've got Julius Randle occupying the forward position, while Mitchell Robinson can play center, and that would mean someone like Wood can fill in with both of them at the center or at the forward position. It's such a great option because the Knicks would get very flexible in their approach. They think they are one piece away from becoming contenders. Maybe Wood is exactly the piece that they need. Lastly, Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets have been fantastic this season, especially in the last month or so. They've picked up a lot of paces and are proper challengers for the top seed in the East. But the one thing they're lacking is a proper center. Nick Claxton has been filling in as a center, but he's not as experienced, and they could do with an upgrade in that position. If the Nets get Wood in, it would complement Claxton ideally. He's a floor-spacing big who spends most of his time in the paint, while Claxton can help out on the defensive end, and while both players have glaring weaknesses, together they can form a brutal partnership for the Nets. Now, let's look at Doncic's plan of emulating LeBron's scoring record. Luka Doncic has been in sensational form this season. He's the outright scoring leader of the NBA, marginally ahead of Joel Embiid, but he's revealed that he has no plans of emulating LeBron as the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. Many analysts believe that there are too many similarities between Luka Doncic and LeBron James, especially considering they're the kind of players that offer a two-way threat for their teams. They're both teenage prodigies and have skills that have helped them play in different roles for their respective teams. More importantly, both players dominated as soon as they arrived in the NBA, and many believe that if Doncic continues in the same vein as LeBron, he'll break the all-time scoring record once LeBron passes it this season. However, Luka was asked whether he'd want to catch LeBron James, but the Mavs star said that while it's a possibility, he doesn't think he can do it because playing for 20 years in the league is really tough. But to sum it up in Luka's words, no way in hell. And it's understandable too. We can't hold everyone to the same standard. Even LeBron didn't have any plans of beating that record when he arrived in the league all those years ago. Somehow, that makes his achievement even better. Finally, is Luka LeBron's heir in the NBA? With LeBron reaching the end of his career, we have to answer the age-old question, who is going to replace him? The same was asked of Michael Jordan when he inevitably decided to retire, and the same will be asked of LeBron James. But more importantly, perhaps the question is whether Doncic can emulate the success of LeBron. He might have a similar skill set to LeBron, but he'll be judged on his success at the end of the day, just like people have judged LeBron, holding him to the impossible standards of Michael Jordan. While LeBron couldn't win 6 championships, and there's a good chance that he might not win 6 by the time he retires, he still created his own path in the NBA and his own legacy. Maybe Doncic can do the same because winning 4 rings as the NBA gets more and more competitive will be an insanely tough thing to do. In fact, it wouldn't be surprising if Doncic ends his career only with a ring or 2. That's a wrap for this video. Do you think the Mavericks should offer Wood a new contract? And do you think any player can replicate LeBron's scoring record? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.